The Yorkshire Dales is a place of breathtaking beauty and, thanks to one man, the backdrop of the most beloved veterinary stories of all time. These stories continue to captivate audiences today through Channel 5 and PBS America's All Creatures Great and Small. But what's the real history behind the series? Let's uncover the life and legacy of the man behind James Herriot, who made the world fall in love with the life of a country vet. James Herriot wasn't a real person, at least not in the way you might think. The name was a pseudonym inspired by a Scottish goalkeeper. There'll be more on that later. But behind the fictional vet was a real man, James Alf Wight, who used his experiences as a vet in the Yorkshire Dales to inspire his stories. He was born on the 3rd of October 1916 in Sunderland, England. Though his time there was brief, his mother Hannah had travelled there to give birth before returning to Glasgow when Alf was just 3 weeks old. An only child, Wight attended Yoker Primary School and later Hillhead High School. His love for animals blossomed early, having spent much of his childhood with his Irish setter. But it was an article in Meccano magazine about veterinary surgeons that turned his love for animals into a wish to become a vet. Later, when a vet visited his school to give a lecture, his mind was well and truly made up. At just 17, Wight enrolled at Glasgow Veterinary College. While the course was supposed to take 5 years, Wight's journey was delayed by health issues. He suffered from gastrointestinal problems that caused him to miss lectures and exams. But compared to some of his peers, who took up to 14 years to graduate due to more leisure than labour, his 6-year path to graduation was relatively swift. After graduating in 1939, many assume Wight went straight to Thirsk in Yorkshire due to the setting of his famous stories. But his first job was actually in Sunderland, where he had family connections and, importantly, free accommodation. However, rural life appealed to Wight, and he soon accepted a job in the market town of Thirsk, working under the eccentric Donald Sinclair at 23 Kirkgate, a practice that would later be immortalised as Scaledale House. In All Creatures Great and Small, James Herriot falls in love with Helen Alderson, a farmer's daughter. In reality, Wight's wife, Joan Danbury, was not a farmer's daughter, but instead a secretary. The two married on the 5th of November 1941 in Thirsk, but Wight's parents disapproved and didn't attend, hoping he would marry someone of a higher status. Their absence from his wedding deeply affected him. Financially, a honeymoon was out of reach. Instead, the newlyweds spent their first days in the village of Carnaby, where Wight tested cattle for tuberculosis while Joan took notes. Their early married life was modest, living in the attic as is shown in the television series. Their daughter Rosie later recalled, "We kept a pig down the garden and they used to hang hams in the attic." Wight's employer, Donald Sinclair, was the inspiration for the character Siegfried Farnan. Intelligent, dedicated, but also famously unpredictable.
Pick my brother up from the station. He should be on the 4:30.
How'd you find him? My brother, I mean.
He's not without his inconsistencies.
Inconsistencies? The man's a lunatic.
Donald's younger brother Brian inspired Tristan Farnan, the fun-loving, laid-back assistant vet who often exasperated Siegfried. In reality, Brian took a decade to finish his course at the Royal Veterinary College in Edinburgh, all at his brother's expense. Mrs. Hall, the housekeeper so central to this TV adaptation, never actually existed. She is based on the various women who worked at 23 Kirkgate over the years.
I'd almost given up on you. I'm Mrs. Hall. I keep house for Mr. Farnan.
However, one character was very real. Tricky Woo, the spoilt Pekingese.
Blimey.
Quite something, isn't it?
That's no way to greet Mr. Herriot. You are a handsome devil.
Based on a real dog named Bambi, owned by socialite Marjorie Warner, who really did send extravagant hampers of food to the practice. In 1942, Wight enlisted in the Royal Air Force, training to become a pilot. He showed promise in the air, but wasn't afraid to take risks when it came to his personal life. He went absent without leave twice, the first time when Joan was pregnant with their son Jim, and the second when she was due to give birth. Luckily, he was never caught. Mark Roodhouse, the historical advisor on the show, described the storyline of James getting back home as absolutely nuts to PBS America, but a version of it did end up in the 2023 Christmas special. His RAF career was cut short due to health issues, and after just a year of service, he was discharged in November 1943. For decades, Wight focused on his veterinary work, only taking up writing seriously in his 50s at his wife Joan's encouragement. Initially, he wrote about football, his other passion, but with little success. He hoped his love of the sport might make the writing process easier, and in fact, the pen name James Herriot was inspired by a Scottish goalkeeper, James Herriot. Eventually, he turned to his own life as a vet for inspiration. His first book, If Only They Could Talk, took 18 months to write and was rejected by every publisher he sent it to. The breakthrough came when a reader at a publishing firm advised him to rewrite his anecdotes in the first person rather than the third. His revision worked. Published in its full form in 1970, If Only They Could Talk appeared as a serial in the London Evening Standard. It was followed by an It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet in 1972. That same year, both books were combined into a single volume under the now iconic title All Creatures Great and Small in the US. The response was extraordinary. Sales soared beyond the initial print run of 3,000, and the books have never been out of print. According to Macmillan Publishers, more than 80 million copies of Wight's books have been since sold worldwide. But behind his cheerful storytelling, Wight struggled with depression for much of his life, beginning during his time at Glasgow Veterinary College. He once wrote in his diary, "I have been getting intermittent fits of the blues of late, but I don't know what's up." His mental health issues continued on into later life. His son Jim said in a 2010 interview with the Daily Mail that his father would describe his depressive episodes as a feeling of overwhelming melancholy. Wight had a nervous breakdown in 1960, which plagued him for 2 years, and he resorted to electroconvulsive therapy. In 1991, Wight was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He died in 1995 at the age of 78. Yet his legacy continues as new generations come to discover Wight's books and their TV adaptations. You can read more about James Herriot on HistoryExtra.com, along with the history of animals and farming.